Good morning, Birdverse. Huh? Today morning we are at the world's very own source of the Nile in Ginger, where we are blessed with an abundance of bird species of all sizes, ranging from the big to small. We have egrets, or some people like to call them herons. Well, they all belong to the family of herons, and they like to be categorized as a day. Well, a day is more of a French word than an English word, so you find that most of the herons and the egrets and bitterns belong to the classification or the category that they call the day. So here with me, I'm actually right now standing in the Nile, uh, and I have the blessing and the luxury to see a number of bird species, a number of fish species. However, for our episode today, our bird of the day is going to be the white heron. Well, you could call it an egret. That's that's okay. That's really no problem. But yeah, the white heron. Please care to subscribe, like, comment, whatever views you have on the white heron or the egret. Please share, and we could get to have a conversation about this in the comment section. So herons are fascinating wading birds, wading with an A, and personally, it's one of my favorite birds just because of the fascinating neck that it has. Yeah, it's a really long neck, but this neck really contributes to the adaptation of this bird in a variety of ways. For example, this neck does a lot of hunting for this bird. I can see one right here, and it's well standing in the river and it's harvesting small fish that pass around it. I don't know if the daddy or mommy fish have any problem with it, but they don't seem to really have a problem with it because it's they're not protective. Um, I think they just let the fry swim in the water, and whichever fry comes across a heron, then it's goodbye. Yeah, it's goodbye. The circle of life, right? The food chain. We eat birds, birds eat fish, fish eat other fish, and the cycle continues. Well, I'm not saying that I eat birds, but there's a number of people out there who, you know, gotta have a taste on that duck, you know, and they think it will give them the wisdom that it gave Jesus as it descended upon him in the baptism in the river Jordan. Oh my God, I'm in a river right now. Perhaps that could be me. Not that I eat dove, but there are people who eat birds like hens for chicken and turkey. And I don't know if people eat ostrich. Yeah, but I've heard that they They have pretty good meat. Anyway, back to the heron. The heron is our bird of the day. Yeah, I was still talking about their necks, yeah, and how they are eating the fish around. Yeah, they're very interesting necks, don't you think? But not only do they help them in hunting. Now this neck has a modified sixth cervical vertebra. Uh, Now basically what this means is that this neck is engineered in a way that it's not stiff most of the time. Six cervical vertebrae means that it has the luxury to easily bend this neck and fold this neck in whatever way, shape, or form. And for example, when herons are flying, their necks are always in an S shape, contracted S shape, really contracted. Interesting, right? For a bird that has a really long neck, I mean, we could compare it to the way you see a giraffe in the zoo or among the wildlife or among the animals, as I like to call it, because uh, while wildlife is a bit over exaggerated, I mean, we could be wildlife for that matter. So yeah, you could compare it to a giraffe and see how an animal with such a long neck has such an incredible adaptivity to its surroundings and to the nature around it. So not only does it help this bird in feeding, but also in cleaning. The fact that this neck is so flexible, this heron bird has the ability to, fold its beak in whatever way and pick off substances off its neck, off its back, off its feathers, which is really interesting. I mean, not every animal has a long neck. Bird, for that matter, not every bird has a long neck. So it is such a nice thing. And unlike cranes and like storks, herons fly with their necks completely contracted. I mean, that's crazy. You know how cranes love to fly with their neck stretched out and like it's a long ruler you just see gliding through the sky. Not only cranes but also storks do the same thing. They just go ahead. Haven't you ever seen birds flying around with their necks, outstretched, and you can tell, this is quite a long bird. Well, guess what? The heron doesn't do none of that. It really contracts its neck and it has you second guessing, well, what is this flying? I mean, you might not even notice that it's a long necked bird as it's flying because it doesn't give you the opportunity to. So it's really a nice bird to watch at rest. And, just seeing it harvesting these fish is such an incredible thing. Yeah, it's really, really nice. So I'm still at the source of the Nile. As you can hear, there's lots of birds around me singing and gratifying. But our bird of the day today is the heron. Like I said, feel free to subscribe, like, say anything you know or want to know about herons and the heron species. And we can interact in depth on this. Yeah. Another interesting thing about herons is that they do not exist in, well, would I say single species? I mean, like, we have a category of species as birds that exist in a certain place. For example, we could have cranes, we could have herons, we could have eagles, we could have shoebills, but then we say maybe in the heron family we do not have full-on herons. Maybe we have green herons, we have white herons, you know, and a broad spectrum of species. So I have seen a number. Um, Actually, green herons are, which are among very few birds, uh, they like to be smart. You know, they don't just do their hunting like the way the white herons do, because the white herons are basically standing in the water and they're picking out the fish using, you know, the spring-like nature of their long necks to good use, in my perspective. However, herons like green herons, huh, they're not really into that. They're really trickeries, master trickers and jokers. So what they do is that they like to drop leaves. Yeah, they like to, you know, throw a little bit of props around here and there, twigs, insects, or even pieces of bread, just to bait fish to come into one location or into one area in the pond or in the river. And then when this is done, these green herons then come and swoop the fish in one go. So yeah, they are really smart ones if you ask me, because that's not something that everyone does. You know what I'm saying? Throwing leaves into the water, twigs, just so that they can lure their prey and capture their prey in a smarter way. That's quite smart, if you ask me. And I'd give it to herons generally. I mean, if a green heron can do that, then why should we say, or why should we assume that birds are, any less intelligent? As you can hear the birds of the sound and the sound of the birds, it's buzzing around us. It's not just sounds, but it's birds communicating, speaking a unified language, telling a story, sharing an experience. It's such a beautiful thing.
We're going for a short break. And while in this break, I would like you to immerse yourselves into the sound, into the rhythm, into the melody, into the beauty of the birds and the music, all combined in one. But first, catch you later.
So, yeah, certain species of the heron, uh, especially the green heron, among others, well, herons are very interesting birds. Yeah. Now, based on their diversity in terms of species, yeah, could have the green herons, the white herons, the great blue heron, the Goliath heron. Uh, Difference in these species comes in the way they hunt and the kind of animals that they hunt or the kind of prey and food that they, you know, get out for their next meal. So, as I was saying, the green heron, in terms of its hunting adaptabilities, usually, I've also seen the white heron a couple of times, but usually what these herons like to do is bait their prey. Yeah, so they throw, for example, if they're standing on the tree and there's like a water body below them, they like to drop leaves, twigs, insects, uh, or even sometimes pieces of bread, right? I wonder where they get the bread from. Guess also breaking bread. So they throw some of these particles into the water to act as fishing bait, and then they patiently wait for curious fish. And once they rise to the surface, boom, hunting done. Yeah, it's really interesting how these birds think and survive. Because at the very, very least, I believe that the life that is in me, the human being, is not any different from the life that's in the heron. So we could as well, yeah, call them really, really intelligent beings, and because everything is one and the same, really beautiful, right? Yeah. So just as you could decide to bait your prey, or your money, or your bread, whatever your prey is, yeah, same do these herons. Another interesting thing that these herons do um, is that they get covered. They like to cover themselves in sticky fish slime and oils, basically to clean themselves. Yeah. So because they are always hanging, most of the time, anyways, hanging around, water bodies, trying to get a grab of fish. Well, right now I'm at the source of the Nile, so I have the opportunity to see how these birds adapt around water bodies, lakes, fish ponds, and so on and so forth. So they have also not only adapted to eating them, but using the fish slime to clean their bodies. Isn't that Okay, well, someone would call that conservative in a way that they are really dominating and colonializing. But hey, huh, they gotta survive, right? Yeah, so they use fish slime. Yeah, they really get covered in this slime just to really clean themselves up. And to aid in this process, these herons have specialized feathers called powder downs that really what they do is they break and crumble these fish slimes into dust like kind of like particles, or you might think of it more as powder. So it's really interesting. These powder down feathers are specifically designed to break down this fish slime into dust that is then applied in order to absorb and maybe water down impurities or substances that these birds might not want on their bodies and on their feathers in general. So it's really interesting because after this whole process is done, they scrub out the powder together with the impurities and the substances that they want off. They scrub it out of their bodies using their middle claws. Now, their middle claws are specifically and specialized. They are designed in a way that they have comb-like serrations that aid in properly getting rid of, these impurities. And well, I would say modern scientists, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, modern scientists like to call it a pectinate claw. So these herons use the pectinate claw to, try and scrub out the powder-like substance together with the impurities, the powder-like substance that was turned to powder but was originally fish slime. So interesting, right? Yeah, these are really creative birds and intelligent. As I've said, we can't really distinct life and say because we are human beings, we are more intelligent than these birds. They are highly intelligent as well. So they really have adaptable features. And they have really used these features to adapt to the environments around them. Another interesting thing about our heron, which is the bird of the day. Remember, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, head in the comment section. Tell us what you know about herons that maybe no one knows, or you could just drop there and tell us what you know about herons. Maybe we could dive into a deeper conversation, spark up deeper interests, and contribute to the learning experience of most birders out there and generally people out there. Well, while we usually picture herons like the white herons, and I've seen some mature, it's like gray herons that also dive into the water, green herons, and nap fish, small fish out of their, little abode when they come to the shallow ends of the waters. You know how small fish can't really go deeper, especially in rivers. So the herons really take good advantage of this. But anyway, besides these herons, we we also have larger species of herons like the Goliath heron. Uh, I know some of us might remember Goliath from the Bible story of David and the young kid who used a sling to take down this huge giant called Goliath. Interesting story right there. I don't know if that would happen again if David was given a second chance. I don't know. But yeah, larger species of herons like the Goliath heron and the great blue heron are way, way bigger and more opportunistic predators. Yeah, in a way that they do not just go for the small things, they do not just go for the small fish. Come on, I am Goliath. Why would I go for fry at the shallow end of the sea? Predators like the Goliath heron routinely hunt mice. They go for gophers, they go for water snakes, they go for baby turtles, and even small birds that sometimes lie along shorelines and grassy fields. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a bird preying on a bird that's half its size and taking it on? Yeah, sometimes you might look at these white herons and fall in love with them and think they are as innocent as the white doves that fly and descend into the rivers and riverbanks. But hey, there are larger species and predators of herons that do not want to know what you are talking about. These guys are the biggest in the game when it comes to the family of herons. They go for turtles. Can you imagine? That's insane. Anyways, uh, tell us what you know more about these large size herons and how opportunistic predators they are. And maybe we'll get to talk more about that birdverse universe. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for tuning in. And may you continue to be blessed with the sound of birds. Peace.